Do you want to know more about people's journeys and understand how they take decisions and solve problems in their day to day lives? Tune in to the Nails and Hammers podcast to master from what others have already figured out in life. In this episode, we are excited to have Vivek Bajaj, who is the co founder and CEO of StockEdge, a platform that empowers retail investors to take smart financial decisions. Hi, Vivek. Welcome to the Nails and Hammers podcast.
Thank you, Kushal. Thank you, Ayush.
We want to start from the very beginning. Can you share a bit with us about where did you grow up and what all did you study?
So I did my chartered accountancy, company secretaryship, and MBA from IIM Indore. And I'm a third generation financial market participant. My grandfather was in market. My father is still in market. He's 74. He trades every day. And it was very natural for me to also get into the market because it runs inside the blood itself. So, but I worked in Bombay for some years after my CA and my MBA. I worked with JM Financials Bombay for some time, and I came back to Calcutta in 2005. 2006, 2005 I graduated from IIM Indore. 2006 I came back, and since then I've been an entrepreneur trying to create a lot of ventures around financial market with multiple partners.
Like before going to Mumbai, you grew up in Kolkata. You did your schooling in CA from Kolkata.
Yes, I did so I'm a typical CA Kolkata Madu, which is a combination you will see a lot of places.
Got it. Got it. So you mentioned you work for a trading firm right after your MBA, so I mean, just from a trader's perspective, right? You have to have a risk appetite, I think, and you mentioned that pretty much runs in your blood, right, so to say.
Yeah.
But did you have to like focus and work towards it in terms of becoming a trader? I think internally, I think the mindset shift has happened post switching your job from Bombay and moving to Kolkata.
Yeah, so in Bombay, the last job I did in Bombay was a commodity analyst. And the reason why I took that job because I wanted to get into commodities trading. And this is
Got it.
2005 when commodities market just started booming. If you were there in the market or anyone who was there in the market during that time know that 2006, 7, 8 was the golden period to make money as a trader in the market, which is currently happening right now. So we actually had to wait 12, 13 years before this period come back again and we make good
Right.
money. So
Right.
that time, so as a commodity analyst, it gave me a very strong foundation of understanding financial products, data, how things work. And when you start as an analyst, you go deep dive into a concept. As a trader, you typically look at market price, and you don't get into the concepts, fundamental, particularly concepts deep into it. So one should start as an analyst for some time, and then when you become a trader, and then it's a dynamic combination.
Got
So to answer your question, that yes, my journey. I mean, I'm fortunate that I had that journey that I selected being an analyst first, and because I had this trading in my blood, so the transition from analyst to a trader became relatively easier because my risk appetite was naturally grown over a period of
it.
time.
Right. Right.
Yep,
But
makes
for
sense.
people who want to do this without such kind of a background, I would have taken 6 months. Uh, if you do it properly, then you will take probably 2 years to reach that influx point where you can say that yes, I can become a full-time trader.
And so, like, your background played a critical role in your becoming a trader. So, how was it like to join the family business after you left JM Financials?
It's always tough decision to do that because all qualified people aspire to do big in corporate hierarchy and want to stay in Bombay, become a fund manager, and do a lot of things. So, and from Bombay to Calcutta, you'll not see many people coming back here. Most of the migration happens from Calcutta to Bombay. So it was a tough decision. Plus, there is always a traditional way of doing business, a very desi way of doing business in
Yeah.
smaller cities. Okay, although Calcutta being a metro, but I will still call it a smaller city relative to Bombay and Bangalore. Coming back was a decision, but it took me around 8 to 9 months before I realized this is exactly what I want to do and commit costs and other things, build up a team. But when the going gets fine, it's okay.
Yeah. But working with your family, I think has its merits and demerits as well, right? I mean, there are a bunch of times I'm sure you might have to deal with disagreements with your family, right? Specifically with your dad and brothers, right? How do you deal with that?
So there is, I mean, you are absolutely correct, and especially in Indian family structure, we have been cushioned like this since beginning that father is
Yeah,
correct and elder brother is
yeah,
correct.
yeah,
When
yeah,
you come after your education, you start questioning a lot of norms.
yeah. Anybody elder to you is correct, and you got to respect that.
Correct.
Uh,
And
yeah,
when you question people, then people would say that ये पढ़ लिख के आ गया तो इसको ज़्यादा बात आ रही है. So
yeah,
that's
yeah.
that will always be the case. So I think patience and making people understand what you are trying to do, communicate. So fortunately, I had that kind of a family that they understood the value of what I am bringing on table, and a past experience in an organization really helps because then people know that you know the best practices. If suppose I would have just graduated and came down to Calcutta and started, then I would have not got so much of respect and so much of value in my judgments than what I worked in Bombay for a few months and years, and then I came back. That really made the difference.
And like when you do trading, you also do a lot of algo trading.
Yeah.
So can you explain to our viewers like what does algo trading mean and what's a typical day of a trader like?
Yeah, sure. So, when I came back, we were around 20, 22 people organization with mostly manual traders trying to do some things, and my family was trading also. So, I decided that this could be a very big thing, and I corporatized everything. So, right from setting up processes, HR processes, setting up an institute in Calcutta so that people can join the institute and eventually become a trader, and then they join our desk. So, from 20, we became 150 in probably 4 or 5 years. So lot of impetus was gone in developing manual traders. Now manual trading that time was very good, and still it is very good. But that time it was relatively easier to make money because the price inefficiency was captured by people only, right?
Right.
But since algo trading was introduced in 2009,
Mm.
uh, the whole market shifted from people oriented to process oriented, and
Right.
lot of investment was needed on data tech, on machine learning, etc., etc., so that you always have your edge on other traders. And when we talk
Mm-hmm.
about other traders, not just my traders. In market, there will be lakhs of traders who are there in the market, so you technically have to compete with them,
Right.
develop your algos which will beat them, and also you have to fight with other algos which probably would be more sophisticated than your algos. So I was fortunate that again I got into a joint venture with six IIT IM graduates,
Okay.
and we together build up a separate algo trading desk which is based out of Bombay. Actually, it's there in Chandivali.
Okay.
It's called iRage, and we have
Mm-hmm.
been doing algo trading since 2009, and so far the journey has been good. Now, algo trading, why I give you this background, because to answer this question, it was important for me to tell you how market has evolved.
Right.
So algo
Right.
trading could be classified into two ways. One is the high frequency trading and other is the low frequency trading. High frequency trading, as the name suggests, is you trade all the time. You are there in the market
Mm.
all the time as part of bid and ask, or continuously looking at the market as a hawkeye. And whenever there is immediate opportunity, you hit the market, grab the opportunity, get out of the market. So it will be fraction of seconds, if not
Right.
nanoseconds. That is high frequency trading. And the other one is more of a low frequency where you're reliant on quantitative models become more important. That you develop a system, you backtest it, you have certain probability of success, and then you implement them in the
Got it.
market, and you continue to improvise it over a period of time.
Okay.
So we focused a lot on high frequency because we had a very strong understanding of technology. Although I come from a CA background, so I do understand technology, but my partners, they understand technology well. So HFT is more technology play, and LFT is more quant and data analysis play. So we focus on HFT. So far we are, I think we'll be one of the top 5 or top 10 HFT firms in India right now.
And so like what's your
On
typical day like from night like when you wake up like what happens?
So yeah, so to answer that question, so there are two kind of people. One is a trader, the discretionary trader, and the other is
Right.
a HFT trader. So a discretionary trader has to do a lot of homework, thinking about what stock I will trade today. So
Mm-hmm.
your
Mm-hmm.
end of the day homeworks becomes very important because you have to prepare yourself for the next day based on the end of the day homework. So typically you get up in the morning and you do your exercise and all those things. As a trader, it's such a tough world. So if you
Yeah.
don't keep yourself physically fit, you literally beat yourself. So that, and then you start the market. Market starts at 9:15, so you are ready in front of the market by 9. And from 9 to 3:30, you are there in the market, looking at the screen, looking at the graph, uh, listening to the market. We call it tape reading. So you just try to keep on seeing every action which is happening in the market, and try to see what action can give some kind of an impact in some stock, and you participate. So if you participate intraday, you will do more micro trading. If you participate swing trading, that means from a period of 2 days to 25, 30 days, then you will not do whole day trading. You will only wait for the right price point of a stock and trade
Yeah.
only when the price point is reached, which can
Right.
happen through an alert. So that's
Right.
discussion. An algo trader typically, you just have to switch on the button and switch off the button, because most of the homework which algo trader does is post market in terms of improvising the model, improvising
Okay.
the technology. So during the market hour, an algo trader is typically looking at the screen as a risk manager, that my model is exactly working the way I have designed it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
So it's 2021, and if someone is interested in getting into the domain of algo trading, what would you recommend? What are the skill sets would they require to get into the space?
So algo trading is definitely something which would need a bit of mathematical orientation,
Okay.
uh, and through mathematics you can get into computational finance, a bit of technology understanding like Python. People, I mean, what I hear from my team members, that a lot of them use Python for their working.
Right.
And also you need to understand this whole architecture of exchange, that how algo trading happens through broker, goes to exchange server, and what kind of response time is there, because latency becomes a very important component of algo
Right.
trading. So from data science to computational finance to the code software, which actually does the trading, all three understanding will actually make you a, a more scalable algo trader. See, if you want to become just a small piece of this whole world, then algo trading world, then there are ready-made softwares which you can adapt, and those softwares you can change the parameters, use those softwares. For example, there are ready-made tools like Symphony, or Zerodha has Streak and all those things. But I'm not a big fan of those ready-made tools, because ready-made will always be ready-made. It will not give you a cutting edge, right? So the best way to look at it is to identify a tool which can integrate with a broker, and that tool should be like a white paper where you can design what you are thinking of. A lot
Right.
of people have been using tool called Ami Broker. I don't know you know about Ami Broker.
Oh,
So
very good.
Ami Broker is, it's not a broker. Ami Broker is a software which is largely used by serious traders to do data capturing, back testing, and plugging it with with the broker API, so that the transaction between Ami Broker and the API can be smooth as possible. So understanding of these basic tools is important. I mean, one can also go to a website called QuantInsti. QuantInsti. It's an abbreviation of Quantitative Institute. QuantInsti.com. You'll see a
Right.
lot of free content, knowledgeable content. Just like you have Elon Markets for basic educations,
Yeah.
QuantInsti is there for algo basic oriented education in that field.
I mean, so you mentioned that like closeness to server matter, like closeness to the exchange matters a lot. So like a lot of people do that. So is that a thing actually?
So, I recorded a video recently in my personal YouTube channel in Hindi. I focus more on Hindi because I want to reach to more masses. Where I talked about that someone is seeing your order beforehand. Who is that person? So, Exchange offers a service called co-location, which is a global service. It's not that India may there is something hanky panky going on. Even in US or any other country, you will see there is a co-location facility where exchange server is here and your server can rest beside the exchange server, so that the latency between these two server would be probably in nanosecond, if not microsecond. So what you do with that server is basically you capture the data fastest and you send the order fastest. That's the advantage you get, which is the latency advantage algo gets, because algo needs that kind of an advantage. Otherwise, if you give latency, if I have a server in Calcutta and an exchange server in Bombay, it will take 35 milliseconds to interact with both the servers. Computers need faster interaction with each other, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Also, I mean, there's a lot of algorithms involved, but like, where does human judgment come into the algorithms?
So I would say that the initial part of developing the technology and making sure that the technology is fastest in response time, obviously human judgment will come, because the guy who will write the code has to take care of all those commas and exclamation marks so that the code doesn't have a latency.
Yeah.
The other, when you develop the system and your tool is ready and you need to develop a model, to develop a model, a bit of human judgment is required, that what parameters should be considered, whether I should include this, exclude this. And once that piece is done, the moment you are live, then human judgment doesn't have any role. It's more of a risk management then, which is more quantitative risk management rather than judgmental risk management.
In times like COVID, right, wherein you can't prepare, nobody prepared for it, nobody can judge what will happen, right? What happened to the algorithms, right? My question is, like, how does the human angle come in this time, and what do you actually do to deal with such times?
So, I mean, COVID is just a symbolic thing. Okay. When you develop an algorithm, you do backtesting, which will include a lot of events which will probably have a similar characteristics as COVID. I'll give you an example.
Yeah,
Ms. Sitaraman, the finance minister, she gave a something for public sector banks, because of which everything went up, and that was a golden opportunity for people to make money for that moment. But there was an extreme volatility. So when I am doing backtesting today, pre-COVID, I have taken care of that volatility when I'm doing backtesting. I know that that particular day I would have lost money or I would have made a lot of money. Okay.
correct.
So don't take, so algorithm doesn't care what the event is. Algorithm cares that what is the average daily volatility? Have there been outlier events? How my system has reacted to these outlier events? Eventually everything will become part of your model. So COVID happens, it will happen. Yes, one risk which we carry in algo system is an operational risk. Operational risk is COVID happened, no one is going to office, exchange server is off. For example, in couple of months ago, days ago, NSC system went down because the alternate system was not functioning, so market was down for 4 hours. Now, what do you do if you have positions, if your server has orders and exchange
Yeah.
server is out, then that's where you carry the operational risk. Otherwise, strategy trading risk is already part of your backtesting model.
Got it. So that's interesting.
And now
One more thing I
shifting,
would like to add here
Sure.
is good algo trading firm who have sizable capital. If you have 1 crore, 2 crore, obviously you don't pay too much attention. But if you have more than 100 crore in your algo firm, then you do a lot of lot of stress testing also.
Okay.
So periodically, every quarterly, you will do a stress test and do some randomization where you will try to bombard your system with absolutely bizarre random events to see how is my system reacting during those stress.
and now just shifting gears a bit, while you were at, I mean, in the family business, so you started an e-learning separate platform, separate channel. Like, so what prompted you to do so, and where does your passion for teaching come from?
So, as I said, when I started Trading Desk, focused on Trading Desk building, so we started an academy in Calcutta called Trained Academy, where I used to love teaching people and onboarding them as part of my Trading Desk. In 2013, I was very active commodities and currency trader throughout. I was not so equity focused guy. In 2013, commodity market CTD was introduced. That's commodity transaction tax, so it got kind of subdued. And currency market, Mr. Raghuram Rajan was there, so he was not allowing volatility to happen. So it was a bad period.
Right.
And I was also going through a kind of a midlife crisis, or you can say a intermission in your life where you were trying
Yeah.
to question your existence as what am I doing with my life?
Yeah.
So 2013 I read a lot of books, and I attended sessions, classes, and figure out what do we do finally, what am I here for? And I met Sadhguru and I read a lot of books. There is a book which I read called Bloomberg by Bloomberg. This is basically a book written by Mark Bloomberg on himself.
Okay.
And I got so inspired by that person, that how at the age of 39 he started building that entire Bloomberg ecosystem to help wholesale investors, the institutional investors, to get access to data, analytics, network, all kind of things in one single platform.
Right.
So that's where we thought that can we create a Bloomberg kind of an ecosystem for retail investor in India. So when we talk about retail investor, as Ayush also said, that first thing first which comes into our mind is financial education. The intelligent person in our country and sitting at the director level in a big corporate will have a poor financial intelligence. That is the level of
It's true.
literacy India has. So we thought that let's start with financial education first, then we go to data analytics, then we build a collaborative platform, and finally we'll build a transaction platform where people can transact through our ecosystem. So we have done first, which is Elon Markets. We launched in
Yeah.
2014 and it has almost 800,000 learners now.
Oh,
Then we
wow.
launched Stockage in 2016, which has almost 2 million downloads and 1 million people who use it. And
Right.
now we'll be launching very soon a collaborative platform where people can collaborate with each other for idea generation. And finally, transaction will be integrated with all these platforms.
You started this in 2013, 14, right? So how has the product evolved from what it was back in the day to what it is today?
Thank you, Ayush, for asking this question. No one is asking this question to me. Elon Markets, when we started, it was a pure video-based tutorial platform where we used to record video and host it in a very simple LMS which we developed. But then
Right.
as we grow, we realize that stock market can't be taught through only video.
Okay.
It's like teaching people coding through video.
Yeah.
How can you do
Yeah.
that? You need to give
Yeah.
them some hands-on, like
Practical
code.org.
experience. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
but we can't ask people to put money and get that practical experience immediately after learning, because if they lose money,
Yeah.
more than anything else, they will lose confidence. They will say that,
For
well,
sure.
this is not. Well, anyway, stock market
Yeah.
is perceived to be a very complicated affair.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is really not, because it is made to be like that thanks to TV.
Yeah.
There's so heavy jargons that we have been told,
Yeah.
"But Baba, it's very complicated, you can't understand
Yeah.
it."
Yeah.
So our challenge was that from video to practical world, that bridge has to be created. And that bridge can only be interactive learning tools with real
Right.
data.
Right.
So we developed a lot of interactive learning tools like eLearn Options, where we develop all the gamification of options learning. Then Stockage was created as an interactive learning tool first.
Okay.
To give that practical exposure to our learners, we created Stockage, so that it's easier for them to get into the real market faster.
Okay.
And that Stockage itself became so big. It was
Yeah.
started as a small tool, but then there was huge demand for that tool standalone, that we kept on improvising that tool also. So the evolution has happened over a period of time as we see that how we can add more practical orientation in the whole learning process.
And then how did you also manage to get like 2 million downloads for Stockage?
Trust me, we didn't spend a single money till we reached 2 million download. Now we have to
So it's
spend
all
money.
organic.
Organic. Till 2 million download, we decided that, first time when we got 1,000 download, we cut a cake and we were so excited that 1,000 people have found value in what we are doing.
Right.
But then as we were growing very fast, and I think WhatsApp groups was the major catalyst of our growth.
Okay.
Because that time those 5 limit was not there. So people used to share our product link hands-on with everyone. So, and we saw that most of our download, we can see that in Google Analytics, most of the download were coming through WhatsApp forwards.
Okay. Okay.
So it was pure organic. But then after the point of time when we reached the significant download, we decided that after 2 million download, we'll start spending some money also, because it's always good to spend some money and give some money to Google, because Google really likes to give them money.
Yeah. Yeah. I think half of the money marketing spends are through Google and Facebook only, right?
Yeah.
So I think they are pretty much owning the marketing channels. So what is the end game for Stockage? Like, where do you see this going, and what do you want to achieve through it? Right? You mentioned you started with a small platform and then it got traction. Where do you see this going?
I am seeing Stockage to become a robo analyst for each individual investor.
Like a personal robo analyst for.
It should be so personalized that Stockage should know about Ayush and tell Ayush that, Ayush, this is a stock you should buy. or this is a mutual fund you
Okay.
should buy, or if you are holding any stock, I should tell you that I should get out of this stock. There's something wrong in that stock. So
Mm-hmm.
that if I do that, then I'm replacing the discretionary analysts who are
Mm-hmm.
bombarding you with biasness.
Right.
Because
Right.
everyone who will tell you some view about a stock will have a bias, right? If a
Absolutely.
broker is telling, there is a bias. If your neighbor is
Yeah.
telling, there is a bias. So
Yeah. Yeah.
Stockage should become an unbiased,
Mm-hmm.
quantitative analytic tool, which
Yeah.
should become your friend for life for your stock and mutual fund investments.
Also, like for stockage, I mean, it's all bootstrap right now. So, what are your thoughts on raising external capital?
So we did raise a small capital from some of our hardcore users who love us.
Oh,
Uh,
lovely.
we invest five people who invested. One of them is Mr. Ramesh Tamani. He's a
Nice.
very famous investor. Mr. Dinesh Agarwal of India Mart. He invested in our company because they love the product and they
Mm-hmm.
love what I'm creating. So they invested in 2018. So far we have been building our business with that money. Plus business is generating revenue. So we are not getting into that. It's a very different world when you raise money from VCs and then you.
Yeah.
I mean, Ayush would definitely know about it. You
Yeah.
need a different kind of a pace and different kind of an
Yeah.
aggression to work
Yeah.
in that kind of an environment. Whereas we are more of a product company who are looking at how do we add value to the customer rather than how many customers I want to win, right?
Right. Right.
Yes, we will raise money at some
Mm-hmm.
point because pandemic has given us very strong boost. Our numbers have gone grown, our revenue is growing. So,
Yeah.
I mean, today's world probably need is that we should raise money. Otherwise, there are many
Yeah.
people who are raising all kind of money and coming into
Yeah.
the market with our
Yeah.
competitor. So
Yeah. Yeah.
we have started the process actually. We have just started the process in the month of
Got it.
April, and we
Got
have
it.
started approaching few people for that.
Got it. My next question is exactly on the market. I mean, there are a lot of companies. I mean, this is a heated market right now, right?
Yeah.
Bunch of companies have raised like some shit tons of money, right? How do you plan to compete with someone like I mean, at the risk of taking a few names, like a Grow or Upstock, when they're marketing during IPL, they're all in your face, right? If you want to just Google it, like they're pretty much spending a lot of money on customer acquisition, right? Whereas in your case, fairly bootstrapped, have raised a small amount. How do you plan to compete with like these big hotshots?
So when I started Stockage in 2016, when I discussed with people, everyone said that money control is there. There is no need, yaar. Why are you
Yeah.
wasting on time? Everyone is using money control. But still, we got 2 million users who tried us, and 1 million people are there in our platform right now.
Mhm,
Okay.
mhm, mhm.
Uh, I am very happy that has raised money, Upstock has raised money, Paytm money is going aggressive because they are getting audience for us. Finally, all
Educating the
these
market.
people is creating the market, and all the guys who are coming right now
Mhm.
finally will search for people like us who are really adding value in their journey, right?
Right.
So I'm very glad, and I don't want to compete with gurus of the world because what they have done, what they can do because of the e-commerce background. Every team member is from that e-commerce background. So they know and they
Yeah.
have learned this art of creating a market, right? Let them do that. I'll sit on
Yeah.
top of them and I will focus more on making money and adding more valuable value to our customers.
And then, like, you have been in this market for a long time. So, how has it evolved since you joined? And secondly, like, there's a lot of young people doing trading these days. So, what are some of the downsides of young people doing trading?
So market has evolved. Every 3 years we have a new market structure because even the regulator is evolving. So there are a lot of do's and don'ts which keep on improvising in the market. So definitely it will continue to be the way it is. And technology has become so dynamic that every 6 months you will suddenly see, oh man, what happened? Suddenly this has come into the market. The second answer is that right now people who have come, they are playing games because they want their time to be utilized. For if you see the amount of capital collateral young guys give to the broker would be average 5,000 rupees or 10,000 rupees. You can't create wealth out of 5,000, 10,000. Yes, you can play game. So there is Dream 11 which is going on there,
Yeah.
and there is a dream of making a lot of money from stock market which is going on here,
Mhm.
which is not a problem because I mean if you see 1 crore people who have come into the system, I would say 90% will vanish after 2 years because they have come here to play game. Once they get busy with their main occupation, they'll move out of this.
Right.
And the 10 lakh which remains in the system, they are the guys who will understand the don'ts of market and they will start working on proper methodology of wealth creation from the market.
You touched upon regulators, right? And one sector which is not being favored by the regulators is crypto, right? What are your thoughts on crypto, and do you see this going mainstream?
So I heard someone saying that if you don't know about anything, better don't criticize it.
That's
So
true.
I think that is one. This is one product which makes me believe that I'm getting older. I don't know, very honestly. Because I belong to that school of thought. I've been a chartered accountant where I want to see real businesses. That's why at times I fail to understand why startups are getting so much value. Just
Uh-huh.
because they are focusing on top of the funnel, above the revenue, doesn't give them right to get so much valuation. Maybe they're right. They should get. There is a different school of thought which is supporting them, which is fine. I can't understand. So crypto is also for me that mystery that why crypto is getting so much prominent. Is the world truly going to get deregularized and crypto is going to dominate over? I don't know. It's not easy thing to do. It can happen. So I have not tried crypto at all.
Okay.
Yeah, fair enough. And then moving on to your another phase of life, which is like you create a lot of like content on YouTube.
Yeah.
So how do you come up with ideas for your content, and then what sort of content usually works?
Okay, so the ideas come from people what they want.
Uh-huh.
So I keep on reading the comments, I reply to the comments, and I find that many people are asking about these things. So better I create a content for this thing. Yeah. And content what works? See, India is a country where people value entertainment a lot.
Right.
If you record a serious stuff, you will not get viewership, and you guys know it, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, if a comedian is going to talk about stock market and make it, and I'm not going to name anyone, but I'm just
Yeah.
giving you an idea,
Mhm.
and make it a symbolic comedy play, even though the content is serious, but it's presented in a very comedy way, you will see more viewership.
Yeah.
But if
Absolutely.
I do a very serious discussion that, Reliance is a good stock, this will happen, people will not get excited. There's a handful of people who will get
Yeah.
excited. So I may
Serious
not.
people will. Serious people will have the skin in the game and doing it on a regular basis. If you
Yeah.
want to like attract a new market, I feel, I mean, that's not the right way. I mean, content creation in general is, in my opinion, it's a hell of a tough job, right? How do you motivate yourself? Because when there are a lot of things that keeps on going on, you're running a company, managing a team, thinking about the future in terms of where the company is shaping up and growing, right? Now you're getting into the fundraise zone as well, right? How do you motivate yourself to just create content?
I think I don't consider this to be a task. I think now
Okay.
I'm considering this to be my way to connect with everyone in society.
All right.
Otherwise, I would not have got the connect, right. I would have not have communicated with someone in some Jila in Jharkhand talking about stock market with me through YouTube. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And this guy trying to connect with me and try to ask me questions that this has happened wrong with me, sir. What do I do? I get to talk to that person. Otherwise, how do I connect with that person? So it's my zeal of connecting with larger population which is driving me to create right content for them.
Now we want to shift focus to know more about Vivek as a person. So like, what do the next 3 to 5 years look like for you?
Well, I am. So this thing has just started, I would say, because the population, critical population who is coming into the market is now growing now. So last year there has been growth. This year is again going to be growth. So that 5 crore investor base, India will see 10 crore in probably 3 to 5 years. So the next lot of 5 crore investors who are coming into the market, they would need lot of handholding, lot of the work which we are doing. So for coming 3 4 years, the focus is to give them right path, and
Mhm.
whoever we can make. I mean, we will not be able to save everyone. We will not be
Yeah.
able to give right path to everyone because stock market, our role is 20 30%. Maximum
Yeah.
role is of that person. Even if we tell him or her the right knowledge, Finally, when it comes to implementation, they will still commit that mistake. So if we can add value to that 20%, 30% janta who is coming on board, which is like almost a crore new people who will come into our system. Right now we have around
Mm-hmm.
20 lakh people. In 3 to 4 years, we expect to go to 1 crore people who are part of our system. So we
Right.
have to serve them, we have to make them a better stock market participant, and I think our job will be done if we do that right way.
Yeah.
Got it. What one advice would you want to give to a 22-year-old Vivek straight out of college? Now looking back, what one advice would you like to
Well, I think one thing probably I did slightly late was to start getting into the work earlier.
give?
You know
Okay.
what has happened in our society, the way things are, that we have been told to study, 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 study. And
Yeah.
after a point of time, you realize that why did I do company secretaryship? What value added? I worked so hard for that. Why did?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
maybe just do one thing and do it better and get on to the work as early as possible.
Mhm.
Nice.
Because if you get into a work at the age of 22 or if you get into the work at the age of 26, it makes lot of difference. That 4 year,
Yeah. Yeah.
people say now that early morning if you study for 1 hour, it's equivalent to evening study of 2 hour, because that early morning is so you're at your best in terms of your intellect. So similarly, that age 20 to 25, 26 is such a critical age to give your best in one thing and get into the work as early as possible.
Mhm.
The other thing I would say that what I have done very smartly is transit at every stage of the life.
Mhm.
I was so I'm an introvert person. I didn't used to speak at all. This was way back when I was doing my CA. So being an accountant, then I joined a sales company to do sales because I wanted to get out of that comfort zone of introvert and talk to people, sell
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
So if you learn the art of selling early in your life, you're sorted.
Uh,
भूखे
Mhm.
नहीं मरोगे
yeah.
अगर आपको बेचना
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
उसके बाद में I got into technology. So
Mm.
embracing technology is so important. Start learning Python early. Start learning machine learning early. It's so important to do it as early stages. And then I learned the art of facing camera and recording. So I've been adapting myself at every stage.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That is probably the key learning people can take from me. But a chartered accountant, especially an introvert person reaching to this stage, definitely I'm trying hard to work on these things.
Mhm.
But learning technology and learning the latest thing which is happening in the market at that age, 20 to
Yeah.
25, is most important.
I mean, you
Right.
mentioned a lot about learning, but how about unlearning some stuff that you had already learned?
So that is what I'm saying, that don't clutter your mind with lot of learnings. So the time has gone where we do like this. We can't spread our knowledge like this. It should be this. So pick one thing and go deep dive into it. Then you don't need an unlearning. Unlearning typically happens when during my generation, if my batchmate was doing CA, CS, costing everything, so we were just following him because he was the topper and he's doing, we'll also do it. So then we realized that, oh God, why did we spend time on those things? So unlearning is required there. But abhi, agar if you do only one thing and go deep into it, why do you need unlearning?
Um, what's your purpose in life? I know you have mentioned briefly about what you want to do in the next few years, but what's your purpose in life in general?
I think I'm pretty sorted now. The purpose is changing every 3, 4 years with the
Mhm.
new objective, new target. So, as I said, coming 3, 4 years, this organization should do what it is meant to, and then teaching, helping people learn. It's a continuous affair. So you learn, and you pass on the learning to other people. So that's why in my Twitter, which has
Yeah.
almost a lakh followers, my handle is Learner Vivek Bajaj.
Yeah.
I'm going to be
Yeah.
like that forever. That you learn from other people and pass on the learning to other people.
Mhm.
Got
Also, like you have, I mean, you work so hard. I mean, you have your you do content creation, you teach, you do your trading. How do you unwind? Like, do you get time to unwind?
Yeah, so this is I never thought that this is such a tedious task that I need to unwind. I mean, I do all the things considering it to be part of my life only. So there is I never thought that I need to unwind. Plus, obviously, there is family and there are other aspects of your lifestyle which is helping you to unwind. But I'm okay. I love doing what I'm doing, so I don't need a reason to unwind.
I think a lot of us, specifically in our 20s, we look for reasons to unwind and figure out what should we do over the weekend and stuff.
I think
Fair enough.
I'm fortunate that I've lived that era where distractions were limited.
Got it.
Uh, Today, unfortunately, 20s people who are in 20s, they have so much social media interactions
Yeah.
that their mind is getting cluttered with a lot of noise. So they probably, yes, you guys would probably need more unwinding. We have reached a stage. I'm in 40. I'm 43, so we have kind of
Yeah.
reached a stage where
Yeah.
we have realized what not to do.
You also sound like you're in a very zen mode. A lot of us are just figuring out stuff.
No, I would
Of
suggest, I was also like this. Sorry to interrupt in the middle. I was
yeah,
also
yeah.
very, very restless and very that kind of a person. So, but I
Mm.
did Isha Foundation Sadhguru's Inner Engineering in
Right,
2003.
right.
That really helped me to calm down, to cool down, to settle
Got it.
down.
Got it. Got it. Well, that's interesting. I think a lot of us need to check that out.
Yeah.
Let's move into the final segment. So this is rapid fire. So we'll ask like a few questions, and anything that comes to your mind first, just go for it.
Yeah.
So any hobby that you picked up during COVID?
Uh, uh, Hobby is recording. I really picked up recording
Yeah,
well during
yeah,
COVID. Because I never used to do it so much before COVID, but during COVID, I've learned it and it's working fine for me now.
that's fantastic.
Three stocks you'll buy right now.
I will always buy Reliance Industries. I think Reliance, no matter it is expensive, no matter what people say that, I mean, if one company which has to take India to $5 trillion and which will be a beneficiary of this whole, because they own the pie, they own us,
Yeah,
they know
yeah,
everything about us. What Google used to do it, Reliance is
yeah,
doing it today. So
yeah, yeah.
we'll always buy Reliance, no matter what the price is.
And apart from Reliance, if you don't want to take names of the company stocks, you can tell like few sectors which one should look at right now.
So there are some dark horses like infrastructure.
Mhm.
I think post-COVID, lot of money government will spend on building infrastructure, especially infrastructure on the health side, healthcare side, and infrastructure on the road side. So dark horse would be infrastructure sector. So companies like L&T and the smaller companies could get benefit. Bank is always important because if our country has to grow, banking system has to contribute to that growth. So
Right.
maybe it is right now going down, but look out for banks which are stable, large enough to have the moat. For example, State Bank of India. What will happen to that bank? It will never vanish. It may remain an underperformer for some time, but over a period of 10 years, it will always be a outperformer. And then with bank, I would say NBFCs, because
Yeah.
NBFCs can lend to a critical mass. Bank doesn't lend to a critical mass so smoothly.
One thing you love and hate about teaching.
I love about teaching is the homework which you have to do
Okay.
before you actually deliver.
Yeah. Yeah.
What you deliver is half an hour, but for that you need to do homework for at least 4 hours. That
Mhm.
adds a lot to your learning.
Yeah. Yeah.
And one thing I hate about teaching is I don't hate anything about teaching. I think what has happened, lot of entertainment is needed, and I'm not a natural entertainer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm seeing on YouTube also a lot of these rubbish. I don't like a comedian teaching stock market, very honestly. It's not,
Mhm.
you are making a mockery of a serious subject.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if people tell me make jokes, okay, I'll crack jokes because of my sense of humor, but I can't
Mhm.
joke around related to a serious topic, which is life and death. If people
Yeah.
lose money in stock market, people can die also. It's
Yeah.
not a
Yeah.
joke.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Trading or investing.
Investing now, trading when I was younger. I started with trading and then I
Yeah.
realized there is no point. I just do active
Just play
investing.
the
I would
long
say
game.
active investing. I'm not a passive investor, I'm an active investor, so I will enter or exit based when the price is there.
Okay.
So maybe
Okay.
trade 10 times in a month, but definitely not active trading. It's not worth it.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay. Apart from Bloomberg, whom do you follow for inspiration?
there are no specific people. I generally get inspired from people around us, so not necessarily a bigger guy. So
Yeah.
there's a guy in Calcutta who runs a 500 people tech company, which no one knows about him, but he's inspiring. So he's a
Right.
person who started a business 2 years ago, and he has already scaled up that business. It's a very small business, but he's making a revenue of 10 crore. He is inspiring me.
Fantastic.
So no specific people.
Mhm.
People who are already exposed and a lot of people know them.
Yeah.
They are already inspiring a lot of people. I'm looking out
Yeah.
for people who are not exposed, and I get inspired from them.
I mean, you have a lot of books in your background, but like, what book are you reading currently?
So I read autobiographies and biographies a lot. I love
Okay.
them because again I get inspiration from all these guys who have written book about themselves, and very stock market oriented. In that sense, I'm a boring guy. This is a family library, so we have a big family, so people have their own books, fictions, non-fiction. So I'm more of a management oriented who reads book about people and on a managerial side that what is the right way to do things and what is the current way of doing things.
And just a
Right.
follow up on that one, Bloomberg by Michael Bloomberg or Principles by Ray Dalio?
Bloomberg by Bloomberg, yeah.
Okay.
Because
Got
I
it.
love Bloomberg. I've been using Bloomberg for 15 years, so I have biasness for that book because of that product.
One final last question. So what are the financial services or fintech apps that you use apart from Stockage?
I use Money Control to see what my competitor is doing.
Yeah.
I use TradingView to
Okay.
look at chart and market data. Apart from that, since I have my own financial services firm, I don't use any broker. But
Okay.
yes, typically people would use all these new gen tech brokers like Paytm or Grow or Upstock, etc. But I don't use them because I'm a broker. But
Right.
given if I was not a broker, I would have parked my money and used maybe Kotak Securities.
Mhm.
Make-
Because I belong to that generation who has seen value of capital preservation, security of capital. Because we have lost money also
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
bad situations. So I would give my money, my collateral to a Kotak kind of an institution rather than risking my money with institutions like Upstock.
Mhm. Makes
Got
sense.
it.
Fair enough. And that's the end of our conversation, Vivek. Thank you so much for your time. Hope you enjoyed it.